Hi everyone, and welcome to our next CEM homework review video. This is week 5 tasks, and we're obviously in block 5, and you're hopefully in year 5 if you're watching this. My name's Chris Pearce, and I'm looking forward to going through this video with you. Please make sure as you go down through, if there are any words that you don't know, do record those down in your word and meaning book. That's really, really important, and I'm looking forward to going through this video with you. So let's make a start. So there's just a reminder of what week this is. So this is week 5 tasks. This is block 5 and you're hopefully in year 5. I will put Billy the Bookworm up occasionally in the bottom corner just so that it's easier for you to focus and concentrate. So you may well see him. Let's just check what book we're going to be referring to. So it is the CGP CEM book 10 to 11. And I would always recommend that you've got your word and meaning book to hand as well if there's any new vocabulary. So let's just have a little look at what tasks we're going to be looking at in this particular video. We're going to be focusing on test 21 and test 22. So you've actually got 2 tests that you need to complete for your homework here, but hopefully you've managed to do the you could as well. But this video will just go through the you must tasks. There is one non-fiction passage that we're going to review about the Channel Tunnel, and then we're also going to look at a fictional piece as well. So let's make a start, and we're going to now go through test 21. So what we would ask you to do, and you've obviously hopefully already done this, is read the passage about the Channel Tunnel. So there's a short little passage there. Now what I am going to do before we actually jump in and have a look at the questions is just show you a short little video clip. So I'm just going to copy this one and you're just going to watch it. So I'm just going to put it into Google, and if you can watch this particular video through. So I'm just going to pause it. I'm just going to put up the webcam so you can see it okay. And you can just watch this video through, and hopefully it will help you with your comprehension. And it's also quite interesting as well.
Where we're going today is straight down here and into the service tunnel for the Channel Tunnel, which provides us with an access for maintenance and most particularly for safety. We are 25 metres below the surface, in between the 2 running tunnels. Over here we've got the tunnel that runs from France to the UK, and on my left we've got the North Running Tunnel, which takes trains from the UK through to France. Well, this tunnel is 50 kilometres long. It runs from our terminal in Folkestone right the way through to our terminal in Coquelles. Here we're in one of the cross passages. The cross passages link the service tunnel to the railway tunnels through that door. Now the doorway itself can be controlled from the railway control centre, from inside the railway tunnel, or from in here if necessary. In the event of an incident on a train, the train would stop just opposite this door. The driver would contact the railway control centre, and the door would open. As it opens, a bubble of clean air would be blown into the railway tunnel, so that anybody stepping off the train would step straight through into a clean air environment, through the door, and then into the service tunnel just behind us. So once we've evacuated the passengers from the incident train into the service tunnel, we close this door, we deal with the train in isolation. People have dreamt about building the Channel Tunnel for more than 200 years, and attempts have been made at different times. And where we're standing now, we are actually in today's tunnel, but we're also standing in a tunnel that was built in 1974 and a tunnel that was first dug in the 1870s. Now these segments here behind me, which are cast iron segments, have got the date 1974 stamped on them. And they were placed here by the engineers who were tunnelling through in 1974 when they cut across the original workings from the 1870s. This is the midpoint of the tunnel. We're exactly halfway between France and the UK. Folkestone is 25 kilometres in that direction, and Coquelles is 25 kilometres in that direction. And above us, there's 100 metres until we get to sea level. This is a place that it's been impossible to get to in the past. This is the dry land route between France and the UK. I think this is a really unique environment. I don't think there is anywhere else like it in the world. There's no other tunnel that creates such a link between an island nation and a continent. There's nowhere else that is so far from the shores of those two countries. And so to be here always gives you a little bit of a special feeling, because it's such an unusual place to work.
So guys, hopefully you were able to watch that through. I think it is very, very interesting, isn't it, learning about the Channel Tunnels. So what we would suggest is you read it down through. Some of that information within the video is, of course, there as well. And then you've got a series of questions that come after, and these are the ones that we're actually going to review. So I'm just going to put Billy back in the corner, and we're then going to have a look at question 1. So question 1 says, what was the Franco-British Channel Tunnel Treaty? So if we go back to the passage, we can see here, consent came in the form of the Franco-British Channel Tunnel Treaty signed by Edward Heath and Georges Pompidou. So the British Prime Minister and the French President respectively. So if we go back and have a little look at the answers. So the answer is A, permission for a tunnel to be built between France and England. So when we use the word consent, it means granted. So that's what that Channel Tunnel Treaty was all about, was giving permission for a tunnel to be built between France and England. So as you go down through the questions, you can obviously give them a tick if you've got them right. Question 2, where along the tunnel did the breakthrough take place? Well, it was closer to Calais than Kent. So if we go back to lines 12 and 13, construction began from the French side in 1988 and drilling from Britain began shortly after. 2 years later, the two teams met in the tunnel, but since the British had greater progress, their meeting was not equidistant from Folkestone and Coquelles. So that was 2D. Number 3, when was the Channel Tunnel officially opened? Well, in line 11, it states that the construction began in 1988. So if we go back to line 11, so we've got 1988 here. I always certainly suggest if you write these down, it will help you. And then line 17 states, after 6 years of excavation work, the tunnel was declared officially open. Therefore, the Channel Tunnel was officially opened in 1994. So if we have a little look, it mentions here about 6 years later. So let's go back to the questions again, and it should have been 1994. Question 4, according to the text, who was present at the tunnel's official opening ceremony? Well, it does say a British sovereign. And by a British sovereign, we mean the Queen, so Queen Elizabeth II. So if we go back to lines 17 and 18, and it mentions Queen Elizabeth II there. Let's go back to the questions, and question 5. According to the passage, which of the following must be false? Since it opened, the tunnel has never had to close. Well, if we go back to the passage, it talks here, right at the end, leading on occasion to closures. So there have been times where the tunnel had to be closed. So just going back to question 5, so that should have been D. Which of the following is not mentioned in the passage? Which country the flags held by Fag and Philippe represented? Now, I've just got two pictures of the flags here, the French flag at the top and the British flag underneath. And as you can see, they do use the same colours. And within the passage, it does talk about, if we go back, it does talk about them obviously brandishing blue, red and white flags. But if we come back, then we don't know which ones they are, because we've obviously got the French and the British flag being the same. So which countries the flags held by Fag and Philippe represented? So it's B. Number 7, according to the passage, which of the following must be true? Channel Tunnel trains run 7 days a week. So if we just go back to the passage, let's just prove that. And it talks about currently caravans bringing passengers to a destination make up the trip every 24 hours. So it does say there that they run every 24 hours. So that's the answers to those comprehension questions. Hopefully you've done really well with those. Let's now go and have a look at the next part of this test, and this was finding words that mean the same. So we've got caution and vigilance, wrongdoing and misconduct, both mean unacceptable behaviour, vague and indistinct, that means not being clear. If you're vague about something, you're not being clear. Provoke and annoy, so becoming angry. Changeable and volatile, so give that one a tick for number 12, so both mean unpredictable. Kindness and goodwill, both mean to be generous. So hopefully you've done well. Again, if there are any words in there that you don't know, then do put them in your word and meaning book. Then we've got to look at the odd ones out. So we're finding one word that's not related to the other three. So on question 14, we've got learn, because teach, coach and educate all mean to describe how someone might share their knowledge. 15, we've got file. The other's a type of how food is prepared, slice, chop and grate. 16, we've got dissatisfy, protest, irritate and then anger. So those three mean to annoy. Realist, skeptic, a doubter or a cynic. So if you're a doubter or a cynic or a skeptic, then you are someone who's likely to doubt something. So realist is the odd one out there. 18, we've got douse, submerge, splash and cleanse. All the others mean to get wet. Number 19 is torment, berate, reprimand and scold mean to tell off. And then on question 20, we've got exercise, because all the other three mean talent. Well done if you've got those correct. Let's move on to the next part. So you can pause the video at any stage and obviously watch these things back. We've got an extract now from Anne of Green Gables, and hopefully you know this book well. So hopefully you've read it down through. And we're now going to go and have a look at the questions. So this is test 22. So we've got 7 questions that come after this. So let's have a look at the first one. Which of the following best describes Rachel and Marilla? And they are more than acquaintances than friends. And if we go back to the first sort of line, it talks about something that, for lack of any other name, might be called friendship, existed and always had existed between Marilla Cuthbert and Mrs. Rachel, in spite of, or perhaps because of, their dissimilarity. So the answer to number 1 is B. Number 2, what does the phrase narrow experience and rigid conscience, line 9, tell us about Marilla's personality? She is naive and virtuous. So that's the answer for number 2. So again, going back to those various different line references is important when you're doing comprehensions. Number 3, according to the text, which of the following is Marilla's one redeeming feature? And it's her mouth. And it talks here about she looked like a woman of narrow experience and rigid conscience, which she was, but there was a saving, something about her mouth, which, if it had ever so slightly developed, might have been considered indicative of a sense of humour. Number 4, Marilla's lips twitched understandingly. Line 15, what is it that Marilla understands? That inquisitiveness has got the better of Rachel. So if we go back to line 15, she had expected Mrs. Rachel up. She had known that the sight of Matthew jaunting off so unaccountably would be too much for her neighbour's curiosity. Let's go to question 5. What do you think is the purpose of Rachel's visit? She wanted to know where Matthew was going. Number 6, why had Matthew gone to Bright River? To collect an orphan. So again, going back to the text if you couldn't remember, we're getting a little boy from an orphan asylum in Nova Scotia, and he's coming on the train tonight. And then number 7, why is Rachel stricken dumb? In line 23, Marilla has never discussed adopting a child with her before. So let's go back to the passage and see. She was actually stricken dumb for 5 seconds. It was unsupposable that Marilla was making fun of her, but Mrs. Rachel was almost forced to suppose it. Okay, So hopefully you've done really well on those. Let's have a little look at the last few exercises. You actually did have to do some reshuffled sentences. We're getting very used to these, aren't we? So let's have a little look at what those reshuffled sentences should have been. So the first one, at, is the word that wasn't required, and the sentence was, the children were convinced that the snowman had winked. So the children were convinced that the snowman had winked. Number 9, so again you should read it as it's written. So December 4 month said a manufacturer's successful toy was, and then if we go through number 9, the sentence should have been, December was a successful month for toy manufacturers. So December was, so always needs a verb, a successful month for toy manufacturers, and said was the word that we didn't require. Number 10, summer holidays are best spent relaxing by the beach. So summer, so again we won't have capital letters to guide you on this. So summer holidays are best spent relaxing by the beach, and across was the word that we didn't require. Bolts of lightning illuminated the whole of the night sky. Bolts of lightning illuminated the whole of the night sky. Now we have got a proper noun here to help us with number 12, so I expect it probably begins with Lisa. So Lisa makes a slurping sound when she sips her tea. So lips was the word we didn't need there. Number 13, we've got cycling, swimming and running. So that's how it starts off. Cycling, swimming and running. So we will put an and in there because it's kind of at the end of the list. Usually make up a triathlon. Usually make up a triathlon. And a tri means that there are 3 events. So we've got running, swimming and cycling. And the last one, we've got another name here which will help us. So James, so we're going to start with James, looked up and decided, what did he decide? The hill was too high, and is was the word that we didn't require in that sentence. So hopefully as you went down through, you've been ticking them off. And the last part of this particular piece of homework, we've now got to find a word that best fits with both sets of brackets. So if we look at 15, we've got vault, because a vault can mean to jump over something or a room used for storage. So like a chamber or a cellar. And of course it means to leap and spring. Number 16, we've got project, but project can be a plan of action or to stick out. So if it projects, it sticks out or protrudes. Number 17 was brand, because a brand can mean a variety of something, or to stamp with a branding iron. So if something is branded, it's marked or burnt, and then also you've got a brand like a type or a kind of something. 18, we can have start, can be begin or commence, or it can mean to jerk or flinch, so if you're sort of startled. Number 19, we've got consent, permission, penalty and deterrent, so that will be sanction, because a sanction can mean authorization or a punishment. And the last one, we've got peer like your friends, okay, and it can also mean a status or an ability. Okay, or to peer over something. So if we squint or stare, we peer at something. So if you're an equal or a fellow, but squint and stare also means to peer. So what you can do is put your mark out of 20, record it down in your progress grid. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you found it useful. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Some 2 wonderful passages there to hopefully get your teeth into. Thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you in your next live lesson. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.